RBG on the council. Hopefully we'll be adding Larry Bigram pretty soon. And Mayor Reed is helpful, so it's getting more balanced with gaming. We're going to go 7,000 miles east of here. And welcome the Israeli Media Relations Chief, Aryeh Green. Aryeh is a native of the Bay Area. He's adopted the country of Israel. He has spoken to us on 2 previous occasions. He was here in February of 2007 and in March of 2009. He has the challenging job of working with the international media and so-called moderate Palestinians in an effort to provide the positive message of Israel to the world and the Middle East. Imagine that job. A liberal, he told a joke to us last time, a liberal is a conservative who hasn't yet lived in the Middle East. Previously, Aryeh has shared the great pride in America for the freedom it has given to Jews. In his last visit, he shared the extreme bias demonstrated in the international media and how it skews the news to the Arabs and the Palestinians in the Middle East, Europe, and the United States. Tonight, Aryeh is going to talk about the new Netanyahu administration, the threats from Hamas and Hezbollah, the danger of nuclear weapons in Iran, and the recent brouhaha with the flotilla from Turkey. Let's give a big Silicon Valley welcome.
I just said to Richard, and all that in 30 minutes. First of all, I do want to say, as somebody who grew up in America but who's lived in Israel for 25 years now, there's something incredibly uplifting at being here and joining you here today for the first part of our program. I had the pleasure of meeting Pete before we started and seeing the incredible mechanisms of representative democracy in action. Now, Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, but our system is slightly different. We don't have regional or local representatives who have the same kind of incredibly intimate relationship with and dialogue with their local constituencies. And Pete, it's been really, really a privilege and an inspiration to see you, to hear you, and to see the interaction, the questions, almost like a town hall. And I really, really enjoyed that. I also must say, before I begin my more formal remarks, although Pete mentioned that he and his colleague from the council were on vacation and therefore they're somewhat unshaven, I want to apologize for I'm not here looking to take part in some George Michael's lookalike contest, or as my mother said to me, a Brad Pitt lookalike contest. I said to her, Mom, there's no way I can look like Brad Pitt, shaven or unshaven. There is actually a Jewish tradition which is a good place to start a discussion of Israel and the threats we face today, which is to not shave, to remain unshaven and not cut your hair as a sign of mourning. Now this right summer is in the 3-week period leading up to the fast of the 9th of Av, the 9th of the Hebrew month of Av, which is next Tuesday, when we Jews around the world, traditionally observant Jews, fast for the day to commemorate what? Not some event that happened last week or last year or last century even, but the destruction of the Jewish temple and the destruction of Jewish sovereignty in the land of Israel 2,000 years ago. And the reason I'm mentioning that is not only to apologize for my rather scruffy appearance for the first time here, not clean shaven, but to specifically share with you that element of Jewish tradition and the Jewish psyche, which, although it seems a bit archaic to be remembering and mourning something of 2,000 years ago, you'll see, I think, very quickly how relevant, how important it is for the topic at hand with regard to what's going on in Israel today. Well, I would say that the only way to start out a discussion like this among friends, and I count you all as friends and supporters of Israel, is to share with you a conversation I had with a few other friends and family members this weekend, where I came to the conclusion that the best way for you to understand how we Israelis are feeling today is to think about those great old westerns with John Wayne or Cary Grant, and the community would gather the wagons in a circle. The feeling today in Israel is one that's a combination of great anxiety, of real fear, I would even say. But if you think of Cary Grant at high noon, facing up to the evil that his community was facing at the time, you can also understand the very positive element in Israeli society today: determination, commitment, an understanding, if you will, of how current, how topical today, the morning of that destruction of the Jewish temple 2,000 years ago, is. Let me share with you, rather than polemic, let me share with you some facts which are particularly relevant today to the topics which I can only just touch on in a 30-minute conversation, but which Richard asked me to share with you today about Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran and the like. I remember I really enjoyed the film A Few Good Men, if you recall, Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise, and my favorite there, Kevin Bacon, who was the prosecutor, not the most sympathetic character in the film. But I'll never forget, he stood in court and he said in his presentation of the trial that was going underway there in the film, he went through a list of what he called indisputable facts. He said, I'm now going to share with you the facts of the case, and these facts are not in dispute. His opponent, Tom Cruise, of course, was going to go into all sorts of important and, in the end, effective arguments about those facts. But the point he said was, these facts are not in dispute. And for our purposes tonight, an understanding of those facts is integral to an understanding of what's going on today in the Middle East. These facts include the fact that Iran is in absolute and fundamental violation of the United Nations Charter, as well as the Non-Proliferation Treaty, of which it is a signature. The fact of their race to acquire nuclear capability, nuclear weapons, the fact of their declared intention and desire to destroy a member state of the United Nations are both absolutely explicit violations of the United Nations Charter as well as the Non-Proliferation Treaty. This is not in dispute. Politicians and pundits and intellectuals and academics can debate what we ought to do about those violations. There are those courageous among us, like Erwin Cutler, the Member of Parliament from Canada, who has initiated a worldwide movement to bring Iran and its leaders to the International Court of Justice for its violations of the United Nations Charter. And there are others who feel that one should perhaps negotiate or engage with the Iranians in order to deal with their violations of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. But those are politics. The facts are, they remain in violation, as does Hezbollah and the Lebanese government by extension, in violation of a number of different United Nations resolutions, both in terms of the importation of weapons as well as the buildup of their weapons capability. 40,000 rockets now in Lebanon, in the southern part of Lebanon, waiting and directed to attack again Israel across an international border. Hezbollah, which is funded by Iran and controlled as well as supported by Syria, is not only anti-Israel, it's also anti-United States and anti-West. And it is a fact, because it declares itself to be so. And it is also a fact that Hezbollah is defined by the by the United States State Department, as well as the European Union, as a terrorist organization. One which some would have us believe the most effective way of dealing with them, this same organization